This is a practical simplification to help you use could, would, and should correctly, naturally in speech. If you're still using them incorrectly, do not be studying the subtle differences and analyzing the grammar. The first thing I want you to do is focus on internalizing the basic usage patterns. This means you use it properly without thinking first. Then you start to notice nuanced differences between different situations or cases or specific words, right? Different nuances. You notice those later after you're already using them in the basic way correctly. If you want to analyze grammar, my content is not for you. My content is for non-native speakers who want to use the language in real life, who want to improve their fluency and their accuracy. So we're not up here in the clouds analyzing the language. We're like down here on the earth using the language. Those are two very different goals. If you're new here, my name is Anming Alexander. I created English Evolution to make English easy for you. This is Could 101. Number 1, could is the past tense of can. If I can do it today, I could do it yesterday. I could read when I was 5 years old. He could play an instrument when he was in kindergarten. That's easy, okay? Number 2 is also easy. Could is reported speech of can. So they call this reported speech, but really this means any time that we're in the past, we're going to use could instead of can. So for example, yesterday, you're talking to your friend and your friend says, I can go. Today, when you tell me this story, you're going to say, my friend said she could go. It's not just about speech. It's also about thoughts. So if yesterday you thought, oh, I can pass the test. Today, you're telling the story about that. I thought I could pass the test. So they call it reported speech, but really it's reported thoughts, reported speech. Anytime that you're in the past tense, can becomes could. Number 3, could means can, but in imaginary realities. So this is conditionals and hypotheticals, imaginary worlds. If I were rich, imaginary world, I could buy a boat. If I were rich, I could live in a mansion. If I were rich, I could hire a private chef. All these things I could do if I were rich, imaginary world. By the way, this is second conditional. So anytime that you're in an imaginary world, or a hypothetical situation, we're going to use could, not can. Number 4, could means might. It really does. So this is when they say could is used to talk about possibilities. So when could is talking about ability, like when I was 5, I could ride a bike, right? That is about my ability in the past. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about possibilities. Possible realities. Could and might are the same. Example, let's say I call you and you don't pick up the phone. And I don't know why, but I guess you might be sleeping. You might be working. You might be mad at me. In this situation, you could be sleeping. You could be working. You could be mad at me. Same meaning. There's no nuance difference, none of that. It's exactly the same meaning. We're just imagining, we're guessing. Number 5, the other ways that we use could are about polite requests. But these usages come from the conditional usage. Could you give me a ride? Can you give me a ride? Will you give me a ride? All of these mean the same thing. I'm just requesting a favor. But the level of politeness is different. why. If I say to you, will you give me a ride? It's a bit too direct. I'm putting you on the spot. I'm asking for your commitment in this moment. Remember that will is about giving your commitment. So will you do it is I want your answer now. Commit. Can sounds a little bit better because you're just asking about their ability to do it. You're not asking for a commitment. You're saying, can you? Are you able? Is it possible? Could you do it? Sounds the most indirect because we associate could with conditional structures. We associate could with imaginary situations. It sounds like if is coming. Could you give me a ride? If it's not too much trouble, if it's not too much to ask, if you're not busy, if you don't mind. So the whole reason that could is used for polite requests is because we associate it with hypothetical situations, which makes it less direct. The negative has a couple different usages, right? Could not. So in the past, obviously, I could not ride a bike when I was 5. It's simple, like can, past tense. When we're talking about possibilities, could means possible, right? So could not means impossible. So this negative usage is very specific. It's like a logical deduction. Imagine that Sarah is sitting on the couch next to Jake and they're watching live TV, okay? And Sarah sees a guy on this live TV show that looks exactly like Jake, but Jake is sitting right next to her. So although this is very weird, she knows that that could not be Jake. It is impossible. This is a logical deduction. Could not happen. Same thing happens with could not have, right? Could not have happened means impossible. Pretty easy so far, right? Are you following? Hit like and subscribe if you want to see more of my face in your feed. Moving on. Would 101. Number 1, would means will in reported speech. Yesterday, you're talking to John, and John says, I will go. When you tell me today what John said, you're going to say, John said he would go. So this works the same way as can with reported speech. Anytime that we're in the past, will becomes would. Works with thoughts. So yesterday, my thoughts are, it will rain. Yesterday, I thought it would rain. Now, we're going to take a short detour here because you need to know this other phrase. Mostly, native speakers are not going to say, I thought it would rain. Mostly, we're going to say, I thought it was going to rain. Pronunciation sounds like, I thought it was gonna. I thought it was gonna rain. If you know the difference between will and going to, this is that. This is the same thing. So let's go back to yesterday when we're talking to John. If John says, I will go, it sounds like he made that decision in the moment. Like, I invite him to a party that he didn't know about. I'm like, hey, there's a party. Do you want to go? Sure, I'll go. I will go. If John says, I'm gonna go, it sounds like he already had a plan. So different scenario, I go to John and I say, hey, are you going to the party on Friday? And he's like, yeah, I'm going. I'm gonna go. He already knew about it. He's already decided. He has a plan. So most of the time when we talk about the future, we have a plan. Like, we're not just making random sporadic decisions every second of our lives. Like, mostly we know what we're gonna do today. So most of the time we use going to instead of will, right? Will is just for decisions we make in the moment. In the past, will becomes would. In the past, is going to becomes was going to. I am going to becomes I was going to. It is going to becomes it was going to. This is why most of the time native speakers will say, I thought it was gonna rain. Now, this is a little weird because rain isn't exactly planned. I thought it was gonna rain means there were signs of rain. Number 2, Would means will in conditionals, right? Hypotheticals, imaginary situations. This too is the same, works the same way as could. Anytime we have an imaginary situation, will becomes would. Example, if I were rich, I would buy a house. This is me fantasizing. I'm daydreaming. What would I do if I were rich? I would buy a house. Number 3, would is used to talk about regular past actions, slightly less common. This works like used to do something. So if in the past I did something on a regular basis, when I was a kid, I used to visit my grandparents every weekend. I went to see them every weekend. We can use would instead of used to. When I was a kid, I would visit my grandparents every weekend. Regular past action. We would spend summers on the lake. We would spend summers on the lake is past. Every summer, we went to the lake. Number 4, polite requests. Once again, the usage of would in polite requests comes from the association that we have with the conditional usage. I would like some water means I want water. I want water is very direct. It's demanding. Give it to me. Why does I would like some water sound less direct? It's not because there are more words in the sentence. It's because we associate would with conditionals and hypotheticals. I would like some water sounds like if is coming. I would like some water if you don't mind, if it's not too much trouble, if you have any water for me. I also want to mention that could you do something and would you do something have pretty much the same meaning, right? It's just polite request. Could you get me a glass of water? Would you get me a glass of water? Same thing. Would is slightly more direct because of its association with will, right? So could means can. It's about ability and possibility. And would means will, which is about asking for your commitment. However, this is like a nuanced difference that you don't really have to care about. And hot tip, if you just want to sound like the most polite that you possibly can, here's the phrase. Would you mind verbing? Would you mind getting me a glass of water? Would you mind giving me a ride? Would you mind looking over this report? Last one is should. 101. Should is about giving advice. It is not about obligation. It does not mean must. It does not mean have to. So if you're telling someone what they must do, you're telling them about laws and regulations that they need to follow, you can't use should. You have to use have to, need to, or must, just depending on the situation. But we don't use should in that situation. Should is not about obligations. It's kind of like my idea of what's perfect for your life. You should quit smoking. You should lose weight. You should study harder. It's kind of like you're lecturing someone about their life, which is very annoying. Should is an annoying thing to say. Of course, we can also talk to ourselves this way. I should wake up earlier. I should stay off my phone. I should go to the gym. It's also annoying when we talk to ourselves this way. A synonym of should is ought to. Should do something and ought to do something mean the same thing. However, should is way more common, and ought to can't even be used in questions and negatives. Also, if you hear native speakers use ought to, it will not sound like ought to, it will sound like oughta. You ought to quit smoking. You ought to go to the gym. You ought to lose weight. You ought to get off your phone. But You ought to get off your phone and you should get off your phone. Same meaning. There is one more usage of should that's just a little different. It's more about an expectation. Let me give you an example first. Let's say that I am new. I'm a new student in your school. I'm too old to be a student. Ignore that for now. I'm a new student in your school and I'm asking you questions. Hey, so if we have a doctor's note, is it okay if we miss class? And you are a student. You're not an expert. You're not a teacher. You don't know, but you think you know. So you're like, it should be okay. Based on what you know, you expect, you think, you believe it will be okay. The package should arrive tomorrow. Based on the information we have, we expect it to arrive tomorrow. We should be finished around 2 p.m. today. Not exactly sure, but based on what I know, that's what I think. Okay, so that's all I have for you. We're gonna practice a little bit right now. I'm gonna put some fill in the blank up on the screen, some questions up on the screen, give you a couple seconds to think of an answer, and then give you the answer. Ready? First question is fill in the blank. If I speak English, I would travel more. If I could speak English, I would travel more. This is conditional, imaginary world. Number 2, I would go fishing tomorrow if I had more time. The question is, does he have time? No, this is a conditional structure, which means we're talking about an imaginary situation. He would if he could means he can't in reality. Number 3, some girl tells you exactly this. I will call you later. Tell me what she told you. She said she would call later. Number 4, if I move anywhere, I'd move to Japan. If I could move anywhere, I'd move to Japan. Question. Are they moving to Japan? No. Why not? They can't. If they could means conditional, hypothetical. In reality, they cannot, so they will not. Number 5, when I was younger, I always go fishing with my dad. When I was younger, I would always go fishing with my dad. Used to do it on a regular basis. I would always do. Number 6, yesterday you thought to yourself, it's gonna rain tomorrow. Tell me about that thought now. I thought it was gonna rain today. 7, you apologize. You should apologize. We're giving advice, telling you what I think would be perfect for your life. Number 8, if I were smart, I get a scholarship. If I were smart, I could get a scholarship. Number 9, I'm not exactly sure where she is. She be at the store right now. I'm not exactly sure where she is, but she should be at the store right now. Based on what I know, I'm guessing. Number 10, you get me a glass of water? Which is the most polite out of these options? That's right. Could you get me a glass of water? Pretty please. If you got this far, you are freaking amazing. What you should do now is not more studying. You should listen to native speakers in context and practice using the language. Apply the 80-20 rule to your English study. Okay, spend 80% of your time listening and speaking. That means actively engaging with the language. Spend maybe about 20% of your time researching, analyzing the grammar, getting your annoying grammar questions answered. Use videos like this to answer a question that you have really quick and then get back to listening and speaking. By the way, part 2 is coming soon. I am going to go over could have, would have, and should have. If you like that I teach you for free and you think that I should be paid for this, also hit like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I will see you in the next video. Happy listening!